Right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I want to welcome you all to this session titled Create an AI Tutor Tailored for Your Course. I'm Dr. Kelsey Hoteling. I'm the Director of Research Experiences at American Public University System, and I'll be assisting Dr. Rhoda in moderating this session. If you have any questions for Dr. Rhoda, please be sure to type them in the Q&A box. It's a little easier to see them that way. And we'll address them at the end of the presentation during a Q&A session, time permitting, of course. It's now my honor to introduce you to our presenter this afternoon, Dr. Michael Rhoda. Dr. Rhoda, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'll share a screen and then some PowerPoint slides. I'll be talking today about how to create an AI tutor for your course, which if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have thought, no way that's possible, or maybe 2 years ago. And now it's become pretty amazing what you can do. The product I'll eventually show you is built on top of GPT-4, but allows you to guide the model so your student gets accurate information in the way you teach it. Let me start this way. So there's a challenge, as we know, presented by generative AI, which has to do with cheating on take-home assignments. It's just a lot easier than it used to be for a student. At my own university, we've seen overall reports of cheating, like disciplinary actions, have gone up, even though cheating from friends has gone down. Cheating in the old way by like cutting and pasting things has gone down, but cheating from AI has just jumped onto the scene so much that our overall numbers are up. So this is a problem, especially for, for online classes, really any take-home assignments. Many people have commented on this. So Ethan Mollick is expert on the use of AI, especially in education. He talks about the homework apocalypse. In one interview, he says homework is dead. And I agree with him that this is a problem, but I think homework is not dead. We just need to adapt. We still need our students to learn outside of class. So how do we promote that? Well, the problem is this. I mean, we want to give our students take-home assignments that they both have a reason to spend time on, which means we probably have to attach some grade to it often. But we don't want them to have an incentive to cheat on it. We want them to learn, right? So what do? Turns out AI can help bring those two goals together. So in this presentation, I'll talk about how. Let me start, though, by talking about some limitations of large language models like ChatGPT-4 and others. As you may know, they occasionally generate inaccurate information. So these get called hallucinations. But then another problem is that large language model out there built by somewhere else may not have specific information that's needed for the task at hand. So maybe there are 5 different ways to define some concept in your class, and you use one particular way. Well, GPT-4 doesn't know how you teach your class, so that can be a problem. A solution to these two problems is retrieval augmented generation, which was invented about 5 years ago by an engineer at Facebook. And the idea is pretty simple. You take the reasoning power of the large language model, and then you add a store of accurate information that you have vetted. And you instruct the AI to use that information when it's answering whatever question you have. So hold on to that idea. What's an AI tutor? Well, typically, if people often use large language models by asking them questions and getting answers. An AI tutor is the other way around, where the AI tutor asks you a question, you answer, and then it evaluates your answer. And there are some good tutors on the market. Khan Academy has one for K through 12 material. And it can be a wonderful experience using it. It does something to simulate a one-on-one tutoring experience for the student. For the higher ed market, though, there's 2 problems. Well, generic tutors in general have 2 problems. One, students aren't particularly motivated to use them because they're not tied directly to their course goals. So some rare students who really want to learn chemistry may decide to go talk to a computer about chemistry. Most students won't. So a personalized AI tutor would be a little different. It would be tied to your course. And so to do well in your class, you would have students do assignments with this AI tutor. So their relationship with you and their desire to pass your class would motivate them to use it. In a personalized AI tutor, what happens is the professor decides the questions the AI is going to ask the students. The professor supplies the answers and the evaluation criteria. And that's the retrieval augmented generation part. And you can have students take homework, do homework assignments this way. So let me show you what that looks like. This is Personify, which is an edtech startup I'm involved in. And if you are a professor, that's what it looks like. Those rows are courses. Each course is composed of assignments, like homework assignments, or reading engagement questions, or a practice exam. I think the best thing to do is probably just to show you the most basic functionality here. So the assignments are made of question and answer pairs. The idea is the professor puts in a question. Kelsey, can you see everything all right, or is that too small?
I can see well.
Yeah, good.
Anybody having issues?
I'll make it a little bigger. So here's a, simple algebra question. Solve for x squared equals 16. That'll be the question the student sees. And then the answers are that x can be 4 or x can be -4, because 2 squared, when you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. So I've saved a question and an answer. Now to see the student experience, let's go to this view in the upper right. And this is what the student would experience. Homework number 1, solve for x squared equals 16. Imagine a student says, okay, x is 4, forgetting about the negative roots. Well, what happens now is that GPT-4 has just been sent a message that basically says, hi, I'm a student. I got asked this question. My answer was this. My professor's answer was this. Please evaluate my answer. And if I'm wrong, lead me to the right answer by asking me questions. And the AI says back, you've got one solution correct, which is x equals 4. However, there is another solution to the equation. Can you think of what other value for x would also work here? Now, maybe the student gets it at this point, but let's say I don't. Let's say I say, well, 3 squared is 9, and that's too small. And 5 squared is 25, and that's too big. So there is no such number. Now the AI is going to help me along. It's going to realize I've forgotten about negative roots. It says, hey, remember, when you square a negative number, oh, then I realize, okay, it could be -4. I type that in as the student. Now the large language model realizes I've now got both solutions. So it says, good job. And over on the left, you'll see a little circle has been replaced with the green check mark. So now what we have here is auto grading, even for open-ended questions, which I haven't showed you yet. So we have auto grading. The intended use case for this sort of problem would be a homework assignment where you're not gonna make it a huge part of the student's grade in the course, but you want to make it count a little bit to encourage them to do it. So everyone can get 100% on these assignments. They need to talk to the tutor till they get it right. All right, let me show you a slightly more complicated question. We have some nursing professors who are going to be using it in the fall. So I like this question. A patient is prescribed 200 milligrams of drug X, which has a half-life of 4 hours. Calculate the amount of drug X remaining in the patient's system after 12 hours. Show your reasoning and calculation. So what's interesting here is to get a right answer, they can't just give a number. They have to explain their steps, which before generative AI, there'd be no real way to auto-grade this, but now we can. So suppose I'm a student and I'm just confused, I'm not sure where to start. Well, the AI will help me out. To start solving this problem, you need to first determine how many half-lives of drug X occur in 12 hours. Since the half-life of drug X is 4 hours, how many times does 4 hours fit into 12? Okay, so I could answer that. Let's say I answer that as 3. And then the AI is going to probably say, good job. Now, can you calculate how much of drug X remains in the patient's system after each half-life? So the correct answer would be Okay, after the first 4 hours, we're down from 200 to 100. After the second 4, down to 50 milligrams. After the third period of 4 hours, down to 25 milligrams. That's the right answer. But let's say I'm confused and I kind of see the numbers to use, but I don't really get it yet. 200 divided by 3 is 66.7 milligrams. So this is just, I have right numbers, but I'm doing the wrong thing with them, right? And it's going to notice that. And it's going to even kind of understand what I'm doing wrong, which is amazing. It seems there was a misunderstanding in the calculation. Remember, the amount of the drug doesn't get divided by the number of half-lives. Instead, it gets halved with each half-life. Start with 200, what would be the amount after the first? So now it's giving me the first little step, which is just what happens after 4 hours. And it'll guide me on. After 8 hours and then 12, so I can say 50 milligrams, then 25. So 25 is the answer. So I've had a very good one-on-one tutoring experience, and says exactly. Oh, we had a little software error. Okay, so after 8 hours, 50 milligrams, then 25. Let's see if that works. That's correct. Okay, I got my little green check mark. Now, Kelsey, we started at 3:15. Are we going till 4 even?
Let me see here on the schedule.
Or are we going to 4:15?
We're going to 4.
We're going to 4. Okay. I'm going to show you very briefly that this can be used in the humanities as well. So I teach philosophy, and I am excited to give my students a little more guiding with their reading. When I have them read Aristotle, it's difficult material. So you can, it's almost as if you can be right there with them in a way while they're doing the reading. So let me show you this example. We do ethics material in my intro course, and Aristotle has this theory that moral virtue or moral excellence often lies kind of in the good moral action often is in the middle between two extremes. So he talks about that. And then at the end of book 2 of the Nicomachean Ethics, he gives some advice for how to grow in moral virtue. And here's a passage which students often find confusing. Here's what he says. But we must consider the things towards which we ourselves also are easily carried away. For some of us tend to one thing, some to another, and this will be recognizable from the pleasure and the pain we feel. We must drag ourselves away to the contrary extreme, for we shall get into the intermediate state, which is like where you want to be, by drawing well away from error, as people do in straightening sticks that are bent. Okay, some of my students are like, okay, I get it. Some of the students are going to have trouble with this. So this question asks them, try to explain in your own words what Aristotle is saying. Okay, let's say I'm a student, I sort of get it. We should think about the areas we're bad at. That's more or less right. And then here I'll say something wrong. And then just try really hard to hit the mean, the golden mean in those areas. Now, that's wrong. That's not what Aristotle means. He wants us to overcorrect. And the AI responds, your response touches on the idea of self-awareness and recognizing our tendencies. That's good. But it misses a key aspect of Aristotle's advice. Aristotle suggests that if we have a tendency towards one extreme, we should intentionally aim towards the opposite extreme. Blah, blah, blah. Can you think of an example where someone might overcorrect their behavior to achieve balance? It's asking the student a question because I told it to do that, and my instructor provided an answer. And so let's say, again, I'm going to get it right, but not really right. Okay, so I'm a couch potato, and tomorrow I'm going to run a marathon. So I get the idea of overcorrection now, but this is totally unrealistic, not even healthy, right? And GPT-4 can handle it. That's a good start in thinking about extremes, but running a marathon might be too drastic. Now, GPT-4, I didn't tell it to say this. I can show you what I wrote and my instructor provided an answer. It was very, very short. So anyway, Aristotle's advice would suggest starting with more moderate, so on. Anyway, can you think of another example? Okay, so maybe I should just jog 3 times a week, which seems a lot to me now. but it's less extreme. And I think that should be good enough to say, good job, I got the green check mark. Here's why I'm excited about this. When I go into class the next day, we can have a conversation about Aristotle. And instead of having a knowledge gap where half my students got it and half didn't, people will be more on the same page, which really improves the discussion. And since they will have learned more outside of class, in class, I can do things like, well, we can go deeper. I can say, do you think Aristotle's advice is good advice? We can talk about that instead of just spending all our time talking about what Aristotle means, for example. Okay, very briefly, I want to get people on the platform to experiment because that's a lot of fun, but I'll just show a few other features. You can create courses manually in the way I showed you by typing in questions and answers. You can also create courses and assignments with this little diamond in the sky icon to the left of the new assignment button. There, I can drag and drop in a Word document with questions, and it'll populate it into our little spots, and AI will come up with answers, which you will then have to edit because only, they'll be okay, but they'll save you time, but they won't be good enough. You can drag and drop a Word document with questions and your answers, and then it'll just give you exactly that. Okay, so that's one way to speed up the course creation process. But the even better way is you can share. So I, for example, I'll drop this in the chat, I think. I'm going to share. Okay, so you can share it with students who'll be able to take the course. You can share to a person as an importer. That means that person is going to have an option to import the course. They will get a copy. They can edit the copy, won't touch my original. Sharing as an editor will, that's for if you're co-teaching a class with someone. They'll be able to see your students' grades, use that with care, right? You know what, I want to give you the link to that, but first, I don't want to confuse the process of people just playing around with it on their own first. So Kelsey, remind me at the end, I'll share the link to that course for any, and put it in the chat. Okay, so there's sharing, and then there's grades. So as in Canvas, we have rows being students, columns being assignments. And when students submit their work, you can click in and see their chats, but only the most recent chat. So they can you can reset a question as many times as you want as a student. So they can play around without embarrassment, be confused, feel no shame, learn it, and then when they're ready, submit it. And then that's the chat you see. Okay, let me break away from that. And invite people, well, very briefly talk about the benefits. So students receive immediate feedback. In the old way, they have to wait 4 days for me to grade their homework. If they get the first question wrong, maybe they get the second and third wrong too. Now they get feedback on the first question. By the time they're to the second, they're doing better. They can make mistakes without embarrassment. There's little incentive to cheat because they can get 100% on these. It would take more time to go outside the app, find the answer, and come back in. Just talk to the AI in the app. The grading burden is reduced, and it frees up more class time for the professor to engage with students in a way a computer can't. Use cases, homeworks and problem sets. You can imagine this is great for calculus, economics, things like that. It's great with math, but also reading comprehension or engagement questions in the humanities. And then I'm really excited about offering my students practice quizzes. So instead of just giving them a study guide, I'll say, hey, go take last year's test on Personify. Do it, redo it until you can get every question right the first time and you'll ace the test. Students have anxiety about what will be on the test, right? Now they can know exactly the sort of things they need to focus on for study. Okay, so I invite people to navigate to that web address. In the upper right, you'll see Get Started. Then that'll take you another screen. Before you hit the Google or Microsoft buttons, you got to write in a code. And if you write early access -rhoda, all lowercase, as the access code, and then you can authenticate with any Google or Microsoft email account that you have. Then you'll get in there and you'll see a blank all courses page. And I invite you to create a course, create an assignment, and then put in a question and instructor provided answer, and then go to the little view thing and play around with it. I'll monitor the chat and just answer questions. And if you don't want to hear me, you can mute me for the next 5 minutes. Okay.
You're good. I did have a question from somebody come in that was asking pretty much about, let me scroll back here. Retrieval augmented generation. So how is this tool nominally different than Chat GPT 4?
Yes, very good question. So let's say you go on to ChatGPT 4 and you say to it, ask me this question and evaluate my answer. Okay. And then it'll ask you the question and you'll write the answer and you'll have a little conversation with it. What it will draw on to talk with you is it will draw on itself, like the weights in its own model. And if you tell it to ask to check the internet, it'll check the internet. In Personify, what the AI will draw on is whatever the professor wrote. So that's why we get much more accurate conversations, because you're narrowing GPT-4's focus to this particular question, and you're telling GPT-4, this is the right answer, and these are the steps to solve it. And so that's how it works.
Thank you. And I did see some questions about integration capabilities, like Blackboard Ultra. Is this tool at that point yet, or is it still in beta stages?
So thank you for that question. So we're working first on Canvas integration. We won't have learning management system integration until spring. Yeah, but it will come. Yeah. So right now one would have, like, we use Canvas. I received an error message, invalid coupon code. Did anyone else get in? If so, so some people got in. Okay, so I would, whoever got the invalid code probably typed it wrong. So it's just, I'll write it. Well, okay, so yeah, it's early access dash ROTA. Early access is all one word, lowercase, then the hyphen, then ROTA. Thank you, Dr. Kelsey. Okay. All right, I'll be quiet and let people play around with this, I think.
This is really cool. I'm trying to sign in. Seeing lots of people were able to get in.
Are you having trouble, Kelsey?
No, I'm not having trouble. I was
Oh.
able to get in. I was just gonna, as folks are kind of playing around, think of some questions for you. And how long has Personify been around at this point?
So we built the proof of concept version in January and really got moving this summer. So we'll have about, as of now, probably about 2,000 students piloting it in the fall at
Great.
various universities. Hopefully more. We're welcome. We're eager to have people pilot it.
That's fantastic. And you said you've had students using it in your own courses?
So I will be in the fall.
Okay.
In the spring, I wasn't teaching the intro course. So my colleague, one of my colleagues at St. Thomas used it in 2 classes, and it was just the proof of concept version. So it's got a lot better now, but students really liked it.
I can see why, definitely. Chris is asking, should there be some courses to choose from, or are we the tutors?
Yeah. Right now, great question. So right now, when you start that account, it's blank and you are the instructor. So the idea is this is for a faculty instructor and to use with his or her course. So you build the content. However, we're in the process of, well, we use the word personify as a verb, personifying a number of open source textbooks. So if you use open source textbooks, within 6 months or so, you'll have some options to just import a whole course. And then if you have several colleagues in your department who are using it, you can work together to build a course.
Another question from Michelle Newman. I heard you mention Canvas integration, but is D2L Brightspace integration on your roadmap? So another LMS.
Thank you. Yes. So we know about Canvas, D2L, Blackboard. I think there's one other. We're going to try to do the major ones.
Yeah. Very good question here from Alice. Yesterday, a speaker mentioned the problem of not training students to handle ambiguity. Do you imagine any opportunity in this tool to help students reflect on this in their profession?
That's a good question. So for our product, if you're working with objective answers, you get maximum reliability. When you start the asking GPT-4 to reason on more open-ended questions, and it can still be very good if you guide it with your instructor-provided answer. But so the question is bumping up against the limits of the tool. There's probably a way to do it, but we haven't thought about that yet. Thank you, Alice. Now I imagine I think we should just leave 3 minutes of silence for people to really just concentrate.
You got it.
Oh, good. So I want to share my examples course with everyone. I'm gonna make you able to import the course. I'm gonna copy that link. Then I'll go into the chat in our Zoom call. And I've just clicked it there. If you click on that link, what will happen, it's a little clunky right now, we're going to fix it, but what will happen is an examples course will show up for you and you'll just be a student, like you'd be able to answer the questions. But then if you click on that row where it says examples, somewhere in the upper right, it'll say import course and you'll be able to import it. And then it'll say examples copy, and you can change the name if you want. That copy is the one where you're now an instructor on it, which means you can go in and inspect the instructor provided answers, change them, add assignments, delete things. The other thing I want to show you is this little help question mark icon on the lower left. If you click on that, you'll be taken to some documentation. How you structure your instructor provided answer can dramatically improve the performance. So there's something to read about there. And then, oh, I never showed you the equations. This is pretty cool. And images. So the system can display pretty fancy mathematical formalisms and such. And it's easy to input it. If you happen to know fancy computer stuff, you can type in this KTEX syntax, which involves all sorts of hyphens and signs and stuff. But if you don't want to do that, which is much faster, when you're building a question, this little plus icon will let me add a table, an equation, or an image. So you can, for example, well, one thing at a time. An equation, let's say I want to ask I want to write the equation, the definite integral from -1 to 2 of 3x squared with respect to x. Like, who knows how to make my keyboard do that, right? Well, you just write it in a natural language, hit insert, and AI takes care of it for you. GPT-4 likes to throw a comma in. I don't like that convention. I'll take the comma out. Now it's the way I want it. So then you could ask a question. You can do formulas that way. You can also draw. So this little pen icon, if I click on that, you can draw with your mouse, or if you have a little drawing tool, you can do that. Then an image, you can have your students answer questions about images. So if I had a JPEG thing to drop in, I could put in an image, and then you can be like, ask your student, tell me what's wrong with the such and such in this diagram, and they can do that. Okay. You can delete questions. Maybe I'll show you one more thing. Back on the courses spot, see these 3 dots over on the right? That's your action menu. So you can edit course name or course description, share, grades, duplicate, just creates a new copy of it, like save as in Word. Okay, let me go back to my slideshow. And take questions and comments.
I know everybody's probably just got their hands in it right now.
No problem.
Messing around.
Nice. Chris says I use very different wording. and it had no problem understanding. Yeah, that's the amazing thing about this. You may know that GPT-4 works by translating or encoding the text as a vector, which is a very long list of numbers. It's just numbers. And in some way, some quasi-magical way, this encodes the meaning of the sentence. So you can have two sentences with very different words that have very similar meanings. They'll be represented by vectors that are very close together in the measure of, in a mathematical measure of closeness. So yes, it's very flexible. Carl Bradshaw asks, how do the students know where to go? You would share for a student. That would generate a link, which would be copied to your clipboard. Then you would email all your students or post it as an announcement in your learning management system. If they click on the link, they're invited to authenticate with a Google or Microsoft account. They won't need a code because you sent them a link. And then there it will be. And then when they submit, you'll see their grades. Can we link it? So everything the students of your course do shows up in your grade book that you see. To link it to Canvas is another thing, but that's coming. Evelyn Zayas says, when entering an answer, how to use enter key to enter programming code without entering as the answer? Great question. Are you asking how to get a new line? If you hit Shift Enter, you get a new line. I don't think, though, that's what you're asking. Evelyn, feel free to follow up. Did you see the code block symbol, Evelyn? There's two little greater than, less than signs, and it's right next to the... Oh, you're asking how to get a new line. Yeah, Shift Enter. Natalie asks, will it work in other languages, e.g. French? Great question. So I've written practice questions for Latin. Now it's in English, the ones I did. Like I'm asking the student to translate this Latin, and then I'll give it a Latin sentence, right? But the AI is talking to the student in English. That worked great. It's really good at Latin. To get it to talk in French, I haven't tried, but I hope you will try and let me know how it goes. It may require some changes on our back end. But as it stands, yeah, just try telling it and the instructor provide an answer. Make sure to answer in French and see what it does. Can you set deadlines? Great question. That will be a future feature, which is on our list, but not yet. I mean, the workaround is just on the deadline, you look at those grades and transfer them to Canvas or your learning management SaaS system then, and then you don't have to look back at it. It's done. So, yeah.
So
I would like to ask questions of the group, if that's all right.
That's great. Yeah. Feel free.
Good. So you all are knowledgeable and focused on AI, so I really value your opinion. So I would like to know if you are an instructor or if you were an instructor, what would the major obstacles in your mind be? I mean, imagine you're thinking like, oh, this is kind of cool, but what about this? I'd love to hear anything you have to say about sort of problems or obstacles that would get in the way if you're actually wanting to use this with your students. Yeah, startup time. Yeah, that's what we've been seeing that too. So our hope on that is to make it easier to import by improving our sort of AI assisted generate assignment function, but then also by making it publicly available courses that are already, constructed, and then letting people copy them and edit them as they see fit, but they'll have something to start with. Here's one thing I would say, Bill. If you kind of want to try this, just do one assignment and try it out in the fall. Be like, hey, students, we're doing the third homework assignment on this thing, and we can make it free. It'll be free, and they can just play around with it. So that would be kind of a way to put your toe in the water. Yes, yes, good question, Natalie. Now, your school student account might be a Microsoft account. Natalie, many schools use Microsoft, and many schools, or some schools, their school accounts might actually be Google accounts. But yes, perhaps we need a third option to create your own, put in your own email if it's not Google or Microsoft. Yes, Chris Fry, that's right. Course length. Oh, great. Will it be too time consuming for students in 6 to 8 week courses? Terry asks. Well, it depends on how much you use it and how you integrate it into your course. You can, just use it for practice tests or use it for 4 assignments. What I have been finding in my testing is students can move pretty quickly through these assignments because the tutor's right there helping them and they don't get stuck. So they get stuck less often. So it's motivationally, you want to get that green check mark. You just keep powering through. So I'm finding, whereas before I'd give a logic assignment with 10 questions, now I'm going to give like 20 and I'm realizing they're going to fly through this and they're going to get 100%. So I was trying to address the amount of time it takes the students to do the assignment. And I'm suggesting they'll be quicker than you might think because of the help provided. And then maybe that's not what you meant by time consuming, though. Feel free to elaborate, Terry. So, okay, let me show you one more thing, which is this slide. So if you would like to, we're looking for people to pilot it in the fall, more people to pilot it. And there's 2 ways to do that. You could either just email me at this address on the bottom. Oh, oops. Mike at personifyai.app. I just got a weird message. Is everything still working there, Kelsey?
Yes, screen's still up.
Okay, good. So you can email me, or if you have a phone and you want to, you can scan that QR code. And what it'll do is it'll basically put you in a list where then we'll know to email you to reach out. A few more questions. What will I not be able to do with Personify Free Plan? Okay, good question. So right now it's and for the foreseeable future, like for instructors, it's free for you to go on, play around, make as many courses as you want. Eventually, we'll charge students or charge the university so the students can use it for free. And for this fall, we're happy for people to try it, for students to try it for free. Eventually, our price point that we're moving towards is like $16 per semester per student. And the thought is it adds a lot of value. And the thought is also this: if you use like Macmillan with their fancy Achieve Learning homework package, students paying like $150, but you're getting auto grading and the students getting some feedback from the system. It's a nice learning experience for the student. So we want to provide that same experience for $16, because if you use an open source textbook and then have the student pay, the total cost is like way down. So that's where we're going. But right now we just want people to try it so we can make it better.
Good deal. Thanks so much for showing this to us. This is very, very exciting. I can see it having a huge impact, really. I think it's addressing faculty needs, student needs. I'm so excited to see next stages for it.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey.
Great. We still have 2 minutes, but if anybody has any questions, but otherwise, I'm sure that you all can jump and get ready for our next session. I think we have got so many tabs up right now. Next session is at 4:15. You have 2 choices between those.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. I appreciated it.